All right, let's jump right in. We all know that softball takes a ton of physical skill, right? But you know what? The real battles, those are almost always won or lost right between the ears. It is absolutely a mental game, just as much as it's a physical one, and that's especially true for young players who are just learning how to handle all that pressure. And that mental grind, that's exactly what we're going to break down. We're going to go inside a player's head, figure out what's really going on in those huge moments, and talk about how to build the kind of confidence that actually shows up when it counts. So, where do we start? We've got to start with those foundation years. This is that crucial confidence-building era where the mental habits that players form can seriously last a lifetime. When you look at these challenges, you see how connected they all are. At this age, a player's social life is everything. So that fear of failing, it isn't just personal. It's about how they think their friends see them, how the adults they look up to see them. One little mistake can feel like this massive public failure, and that's when those thoughts just start to spiral out of control. So how do you stop that spiral? Honestly, one of the most powerful tools is a simple, consistent routine. It gives a player a sense of control when everything else feels chaotic. Tapping the cleats, taking that one single deep breath, these little physical things anchor them right here in the present moment. And this is probably the most important part of that routine. The focus cue has to be about the process, something they can actually do. Telling yourself, get a hit, is all about the outcome. It depends on the pitcher, the defense, even luck. But track the ball, a player can do that. That is 100% within their control, and it keeps their mind right where it needs to be. Now, for all the parents and coaches listening, this is so important. Praising the effort and the process reinforces what really matters. When a player hears this instead of just great hit, it builds a kind of confidence that's resilient, It's not tied to their stats. It teaches them that their value is in their focus and their hard work. Okay, let's fast forward a bit. As players get older, the game changes. In these high-stakes years, the pressure cooker gets turned way up. We're talking about varsity spots, college recruitment, being a team leader. The mental game has to evolve too. This comparison really shows the shift, doesn't it? The worries get so much bigger. That fear of disappointing a parent turns into the heavy weight of letting down the entire team. Personal failure isn't just personal anymore. Now it's being measured against every other player out there. And that vague social pressure, it becomes the very real, very specific pressure of a scout sitting in the stands with a radar gun. So, to handle this new level of pressure, visualization is a game changer. But listen, it is not just daydreaming about hitting a home run. Real, effective visualization means rehearsing the whole scene, feeling the bat in your hands, hearing the crowd, feeling those butterflies in your stomach. When you've already been there 100 times in your mind, the real moment feels familiar and way more manageable. And when that pressure feels like it's just too much in the moment, your breath is like the body's emergency brake. This specific technique, the long exhale, is everything. Exhaling for longer than you inhale literally sends a signal to your nervous system that the danger is over and it's time to calm down. It is a physiological reset button. All right, so whether a player is 13 or 17, some moments in a game are just universally tense. You know the ones: bases loaded, 2 outs, full count. Let's look at some tools that work for any player when the game is on the line. First, you have to understand what's physically happening to you. Your brain is screaming, danger! And it floods your body with adrenaline. Now, that fight or flight response is awesome if you're, running from a bear. It is terrible for trying to hit a rise ball. Your muscles get tight, your vision actually narrows, and all that muscle memory you work so hard for, it just goes right out the window. Because of that physical response, players need a way to break that cycle. And that's where a reset cue comes in. It's just a simple physical action, like knocking the dirt off your cleats or adjusting your helmet, that acts as a signal to your brain. It says, hey, that last thing is over. This is a fresh start. Okay, let's put this into practice. Here's a classic, super frustrating situation. The umpire makes a call you absolutely disagree with. It feels unfair, your whole dugout is fired up, and your focus is just gone. What do you do in that moment? Here's the playbook. Step 1, acknowledge that you're frustrated. It's a real feeling. Don't try to ignore it, just let it be here for a second. Then, step 2, consciously shift your focus back to the one and only thing you can control, which is the next pitch. And finally, step 3, use that physical reset cue you have. Signal to your brain and your body that it is time to move on. So what about when you make a mistake yourself? You strike out, or make an error in the field. There's a fantastic little tool for this called the 5-second flush. You give yourself 5 seconds. Acknowledge what happened, take one deep breath, and then use a physical gesture, like literally brushing your hands together or swiping your jersey, to symbolically flush it away and get refocused. Now, of course, none of this happens in a bubble. The adults in a player's life, their parents and their coaches, are a massive part of their mental game. They can either be this incredible source of strength, or sometimes without even meaning to, they can be a source of pressure.
This slide is just so critical. Look at the contrast. The column on the left creates an environment where it's safe to fail. The one on the right makes every single at-bat feel like a final exam. And we all know about the infamous car ride home critique. It's the classic pressure adder. But just asking, "Did you have fun?" puts the focus right back on the love of the game.
So, to wrap it up for the support system, keep the talk before the game simple and positive. Give them space to decompress after the game before you start analyzing. As players get older, empower them to take charge of their own development. And maybe most importantly, help build a team culture where teammates pick each other up, because mistakes aren't a sign of bad character. They're just part of softball. And that really brings us to the biggest takeaway of all. Mental skills are just that. They're skills. They can be practiced and they can be improved, just like hitting or fielding. So the question I want to leave you with is this. What is the one tool, a deep breath, a reset cue, a simple focus phrase, that you or your player can start using today to get just a little bit tougher between the ears?